we have a cave of convenience that we conveniently step into and think it'll shelter us and protect us, but actually becomes really uncomfortable. And when you get to a place that it's so uncomfortable that you are pushed to make a change, there's no looking back. And you don't know what's coming. But I can tell you, as someone who's been living this way, for 8 years and going, man, life got really good after that. Like, not all at once, but a lot of people that I've spoken to that went through, let's just talk about single parenting, however that came about, but it was through a loss of some kind, whether it was a death or a divorce, right? Um, you're still grieving, right? And you don't know what's coming. But a lot of people, first of all, in their first year at work, have their best year because it's the one consistent thing that they can apply themselves to. It's almost like the sanity saver. And they do really, really well. They either get promoted if they're in sales and have some kind of commission. It's their best commission year ever, right? It's you suddenly become driven in some way because you now realize you need to hustle. You need to do what you need to do to take care of that little life that is completely innocent and vulnerable and dependent on you.
Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. Before we start the next conversation, I want to invite you to check out my amazing book, The Gift Inside, a powerful guide for healing your body, mind, and soul. Reclaim your strengths and awaken your true potential. Whether you are navigating heartbreak or simply seeking deeper fulfillment, this book offers the tools to turn your struggles into triumphs. It is time to unlock the gift within you. Available now on Amazon, or you can check it out on my website www.irinashehovtsov.com. Stories today we have a special guest, Annie Izmirliyan. She's a CEO, certified financial planner, and trust and estate planner in Canada. She's a best-selling author who helps financial advisors and business owners build success with ease by working within their natural strengths. Having navigated her own journey as a single parent, Annie understands the challenges of balancing career, family, and personal well-being. Through her mentorship and financial expertise, she empowers professionals to reduce burnout, increase financial growth, and create a life that feels both fulfilling and aligned. And she's a single mom of one. Welcome, Annie. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. I really want to acknowledge you for taking the time to do this amongst everything else that's happening in your life. So thank you, Irina.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So please share with us, how did you become a single parent?
Well, I don't think that, we were ever born and growing up and saying, I can't wait to be a single parent, you know? But there came a time in my life where despite, people thinking I'm bold and ambitious and I've got it all figured out, that I discovered some information quite unexpectedly. Um, Pictures and messages on my then husband's phone. And then one thing led to another thing, and it was a Pandora's box of things that came up that I had no clue about, that was happening around me in my life, but I was completely oblivious to. And it's not to say that I didn't have a feeling. I did. But every time that little alarm bell would ring, I'd think, no, 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 I don't want to hear you. Every time a red flag would wave, I think, no, 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 I don't want to see you. And every time I felt another lie or betrayal in my heart, because the heart knows, I think, no, 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 I don't want to feel you. For so long, it was easier to go along with what society expected of me, of being in a marriage, of being married and having kids and living that, statistic life. But there came a point when the proof, the evidence, the information was so overwhelmingly obvious that I knew, like I knew that the right decision right now was going to be to separate for all of us, for him, for me, but most especially for my daughter, who had just turned 3 at the time. Since then, our life has blossomed. Everyone is much happier because I made a really tough decision. Um, my finances have improved significantly. Like that's another part of the story. My credit score shot up. Um, I left the corporate world. I became a multipreneur. I just in my career, I just shot up. I went from earning half of his salary back then to exceeding it significantly today. And I went from, 5 figures in debt to 6 figures in savings. And so it's really interesting because how people perceived me back then as having all these outward successes and things being great was nothing compared to what I'm doing now and how I'm showing up now. And my daughter is doing amazing. She still has him in her life. And so I made sure I had the capacity to allow that. And he's an okay dad, right? That was, I think, one of the tough things when you're first going through, first of all, when you're first going through separation, if that was the way that you became a single parent, is one of those realities that I had to face, which was not a great partner, but an okay dad, right?
Right.
And to separate that was kind of a mental it was kind of like a mental hurdle
Mhm.
that I had to overcome because a lot of people, and I just spoke to someone a few days ago who was just starting her separation and has a very young son, like a preteen son. And when you're a high achieving, independent minded, autonomous female leader, you tend to go, 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 like, let's get this done, solutions oriented, find the lawyer, find the this, find the that. And we step away from being present with our child who is not in charge of anything, not in control at all, but they're expected to adapt super quick. But they have no real insight into everything that we as the parent are now going through. They just intuitively know, how we're feeling. That's all that they're reacting to, right? So I've had some great teachers in my daughter's life as well. Community. So I've been very fortunate and grateful in that way. But I had to, in a way, rebuild completely. Financially, community, relationships around me. And that's all on the outside of me. And then I had to rebuild internally. And
Yep.
so my focus, although I've had 20 years in financial services in Canada, Um, I've also spent some time in the neurotransformational space, the self-development space, so that I could kind of dive in and do my deep inner work. Because I'd been helping people for 20 years and I was giving logical advice. But when it comes to money as a tool, people don't realize it's a tool. It becomes an emotional decision. And so I wasn't necessarily um, making logical financial decisions when I was in the relationship. But when my eyes opened up and I could suddenly see behind the curtain, of illusion,
Right.
uh, I just thought to myself, man, if this was a client coming to me telling me what they've been doing, I would say, like, are you nuts? Like, what are you doing? But that's what I was doing. That's what I was doing. And so now, luckily, I already had my certified financial planning designation. So I had some insight as to how to recover financially. But I actually didn't know when I was going through this, I didn't know anybody that was divorced, or at least I wasn't aware. I didn't have the awareness. Now I know lots of people. But I also didn't know, I got a therapist right away. And you have to go through sometimes a couple, you have to talk to a couple to figure out what's right for you. And that helped me for a bit of time. And then at some point, I had to switch therapists. And then that got me the rest of the way. And then I started getting into more of the self-development space. This is why when you introduced me in terms of instinctive strengths, in terms of all of that came later, but all as a result of trying to relearn how to trust myself, how to trust my instincts, how to be in a balanced state of mind and body, how to connect with my body, how to be the best version of me so that my daughter could access that. And then she could also learn how to have more positive habits and mindset around the challenges she's experiencing in her life. And so this is how we've come to be the Annie today, which is it's I'm really proud of the version that I am today, and it's still developing and evolving. But I could never have imagined when I made that decision that life would be this good and getting better day by day. I could not have imagined the people that I would meet, the things that I would learn, the places I would travel to. Um, when I first became a single parent, and talking about traveling, when I first became a single parent, my daughter was so young. I remember being actually scared of taking her to a festival for a couple hours. I was actually scared, and people wouldn't know that because they see me as a strong, powerful, bold person. I've been called a maverick, a trailblazer, and here I was stressed out about driving my daughter. I could drive her to daycare, no problem, but taking her to a festival where only her and I would be hanging out for a few hours at a festival that was fun, but there was all these dangers suddenly, and the only danger was in my head. But I was like, okay, I need food, I need water. I went back to basic necessities: food, water, money, safety, hold my hand the whole time, right? She was like 3.5, 4-ish at the time. And I just thought, oh my God, it's all on me. There's no other person looking out for her when I'm at this festival with other kids. And once we got there, she didn't know what was happening inside of me. But I was so scared, scared to the point where I thought maybe it's just best we don't do it. Like, it'd just be easier. It'd just be easier if we didn't, right? But every time I've been scared in my life, and I've gone through regardless, like, do it scared anyway, the most beautiful things happen. And so we went to the festival. We had a great time. We danced together. We sang together. We had fun. We had, junk food and sweets. And I just had to let go. I just let go, be in the moment, trust myself, trust my daughter, because it doesn't matter how old or how young they are, they're autonomous beings
Yeah.
that have their own instincts. And she didn't get lost. I didn't lose her. Everything went fine. We had a great time and we got home and all in one piece with great
Yeah.
memory, right? But now, I've traveled with her and flown with her several times. And that's ironic too. Like I'd been flying with her since she was in my belly, but also since the youngest for her life would have been like 5.5 months old. Flying.
Yeah, that's the
But
best time.
driving to a festival was scarier at that point because it was probably my first year of firsts as a single parent. When I was speaking to this lady a few days ago, I said, "Congratulations, you're now separated on your way to divorce. Oh, and you're a single parent." And you could see on her face this kind of shock, like, "What? Wait, what? I'm one of those people now?" There's a lot of judgment and shame and guilt and fear and all of that kind of comes with that. But once it happens to you and you become part of that world, it's a whole nother thing. And now when somebody tells me, "Oh, I'm a single parent," or "I'm separated, divorced," or if they tell me they're separated or divorced, I say, "Congratulations. You've decided to do something right for you." And I'm not saying, that's better than marriage. Both are challenging and have their pros and cons. But when you can tell that someone has been suffering and struggling in silence, and now they took this big courageous step of many gazillion courageous steps that they're going to take on this journey, somebody needs to tell them congratulations. And I completely understand. How can I help?
I love that story, and I love, how you did make that bold decision. I know it could be difficult in the moment because you start imagining what's the worst case scenario, and sometimes we keep ourselves stuck because we think, oh, I know this evil or things that isn't working for me, but it is a known evil, and I know how to deal with it. And what
Yeah,
if I do something on the other side? It's going to be worse than what I already have. And oftentimes we stay stuck. We don't make that bold, scary move or the decision. But on the
yeah,
other side of fear, something beautiful always lies. And you were
yeah,
able to see it in your own life, how your
yeah,
life has unfolded and changed.
yeah. There's a phrase that I heard that I'll use here, which is we have a cave of convenience that we conveniently step into and think it'll shelter us and protect us, but actually becomes really uncomfortable. And when you get to a place that it's so uncomfortable that you are pushed to make a change, there's no looking back. And you don't know what's coming. But I can tell you, as someone who's been living this way, for 8 years and going, man, life got really good after that. Like, not all at once, but a lot of people that I've spoken to that went through, let's just talk about single parenting, however that came about, but it was through a loss of some kind, whether it was a death or a divorce, right? Um, you're still grieving, right? And you don't know what's coming, but a lot of people, first of all, in their first year at work, have their best year because it's the one consistent thing that they can apply themselves to. It's almost like the sanity saver. And they do really, really well. They either get promoted if they're in sales and have some kind of commission. It's their best commission year ever, right? It's you suddenly become driven in some way because you now realize you need to hustle. You need to do what you need to do to take care of that little life that is completely innocent and vulnerable and dependent on you. And that is a survival mechanism that is helpful in the short term. And that also leads, if you're willing, to dive in internally to your self-development, to really understanding how your brain is working for or against you in all the decisions that you're making. Really understanding your strengths and how you need to succeed. And all that journey, all the things that I've just touched upon at a really high level, all those things lead to other things. And when you get to a place where you really learn to trust yourself and what feels right to you and what doesn't, whether it's situations, people, opportunities, resources, things start to align so much easier. Things start to flow. Things start to be easier than we make them out to be. And that's how life blossoms for you. And before you know it, like when I look back at my life now, the person that I was even 2 years ago is very different from the person I am today. I just get more and more aligned in the communities that I was building for myself and for my daughter, right? And communities I was contributing to and being part of, because it's an exchange. But I think I would say if you're new to this journey, or if you're struggling right now in this journey, you don't have to have it all figured out. Whatever solutions you put in place now may change for you later. You'll figure out other solutions that are maybe better served for you. But if you need to put like a little Band-Aid solution on right now, that's okay. That's okay. Trust me, your kid is not judging you for all the decisions they don't see you making. Right?
Yeah, so true.
And all the people we carry in our heads that we think are, we can just imagine and hear them criticizing and judging us and shaming us and trying to scare us, they're not actually there.
Right.
Right? But that takes a while. That takes a while. Just trying to find the right people, especially if you had a traumatic situation or relationship that led to you becoming a single parent. It takes a while to unwind. So it's not going to happen all at once. But what I would say is just surround yourself with the right people, the right specialists, whether that's a lawyer, a money person, a mentor, a coach, friends, like friends, real friends. Because that changes too. You lose relationships, and that's okay. That makes room for newer and better ones that are better aligned for you, that better serve you, that are genuinely caring about what you're going through and what you need. And you're obviously going to return that at some point. But there are times when you really need the help. And for that, you need the right people around you, whether it's for your mental state, for your physical state, your emotional state. Like you just need different communities, and those communities will change over time.
We are the sum of the 3 people we surround ourselves with. And if those people are diminishing or they're putting you down, gotta create new kind of community. For me, it felt like, hey God, when everything happened, all the friends kind of were disappearing. And you needed to start over, like when you go into kindergarten and you learn how to make new friends.
Yes.
At this stage in life, you learn how to make new friends again, and you learn how to be you again. Because I think when we live with somebody for a long time, we sometimes mesh their values, so we become like themselves and we forget who we are. Like you said in your own story, whenever there was a bell, you said, like, I didn't want to hear it, or a red flag, I don't want to see it.
Mhm.
when we ignore those flags, when we lose a little bit of ourselves in that moment, and then a year later we might turn around and realize, I no longer recognize who is this person talking about myself. But
100%. I resonate with that. Yes.
yeah,
And even if somebody said, that doesn't seem like you. Oh, the way we can defend ourselves should it be like an Academy Award winning performance? Really? Until, because they're right, but we just don't want to see it. We don't want to admit to it. Um, because we're not ready for that change. What that would mean if we knew, if we actually saw what was really happening, what was really around us, and how we were actually willing to turn ourselves inside out. If we actually saw that, we know we would have to make a change. And that's scary at first.
yes, yeah, totally. If you could go back in the past, would you do anything differently?
I'm of two minds when it comes to this question. One is no, because I think everything turned out the way it's meant to, and I'm really proud and happy of the life that I have now, and it's still evolving. But then the other side is I would just encourage myself sooner to trust myself. And I mean like childhood,
Mm.
before all of that.
Mhm.
Just trust yourself. But then, if I didn't go through what I went through, I wouldn't understand as much. I wouldn't be able to relate as much. I wouldn't feel as strongly, probably, about how I feel about it now. And so this is why I say of my first kind of answer is no, I wouldn't change anything because um, once I started to connect with my inner power, we're off to the races. Now it's still part of my journey, and I've got some amazing people around me. Every now and then, when I have that self-doubt, every now and then when I experience a bit of that imposter syndrome, right? Every now and then when I just rather kind of curl up in a corner and say, I don't think I can do this, or I try to compare myself to others. Uh, there's two things that happen. One, if I have the courage to share with a trusted person in my, let's call it community as a general term, they just put a mirror back up to me and say, do you remember when you did this? Do you remember when that? Do you remember how strong you were? Do you remember? And two, because I do believe like external is great, but internal is the strongest. So the second is really looking back at my own toolbox and saying, oh, yeah, I remember when I did that. I remember when I went there. I remember when I spoke up for myself. Okay, I remember that, all of that. And if I got through that, I can do this. If I got through that, I can get through this. You know, if I could find my voice then, I can find my voice now. Yeah.
Is the community or the trusted person that will remind you of all those amazing things you've done that you've forgotten in that temporary moment when you do feel self-doubt or you do feel like you couldn't do something. Meanwhile, you did do, you just forgotten all the amazing stuff that already happened in your life. What is the most important trait to instill in a child, would you say?
Trust yourself. I literally, um, kids are so intuitive. They are so intuitive. Sometimes we unknowingly make the mistake of disconnecting them from it. Do what I say. I know better. I'm the parent, right?
Right.
But I actually do this exercise with my daughter. And there's no risk to it. So what I would do is I'd go pick her up from school, and we're close enough that we can walk. So especially when the weather's nice, I'd go pick her up from school since she was really, really small. And we'd come out of the school. Well, she'd have to have aftercare because as a single parent, I could not just, shorten my day suddenly, significantly. So she had to go to aftercare. So I'd pick her up from aftercare. We'd step outside the building. I'd hold her hand and I'd say, which way are we going today? If we went left or right, we were still going to get home. But it was her call based on how she felt was the way to go. Either way, we were going to have an adventure. And when we got home, I would say, isn't that amazing that because you chose this way, we got to see this dog, we got to see this really neat thing, we got to meet that person in the neighborhood, all because you chose to go this way. So I think, like I said earlier, if I could go back to me in my childhood years, that's what I would encourage is to trust myself more. So that's what I do for my daughter, is trust yourself more. And one of the things that I do is there is an assessment that was actually developed in the US, and it's about your instinctive strengths. So how you're going to kick in to succeed, right? Instinctively. It's that part of the brain here in the back. And it's one of the things that I use in my coaching, whether it's for people in my industry or outside of the industry, whether you're a business owner or you're an employee, whatever the case may be. When you're trying to figure out, how do I do this in a way that works for me easily without burnout and stress? There's this tangible assessment and tool that I use to support the work that I do with people. And there's a kid's version of it. So actually very early on, I had her complete this assessment. And you have to just be grade 5 reading level and above. So that's usually around 10. She did it at 9.5. And there was some words that she wasn't so sure. And I just described the words, or we looked it up in a dictionary type definition because I didn't want to influence her answers. And as it turns out, first of all, that assessment was very helpful in our household for me to understand why she needs things the way that she does. That's so different from the way I need things. Because again, we are two different human beings. And it's reduced the tension significantly. It's helped me understand her so much better, more easily, faster, but also find ways to either show her, explain in a way that makes sense for her when she's trying to understand something so she can get to that next step. Mm-hmm. As it turns out, we were just speaking before this about how a lot of kids these days in their preteens are struggling in school. And I've had to actually use that assessment and send it to the teachers in her school and have a conversation around, okay, this is what you're trying to make her do, but this is how she actually operates to succeed. Mm-hmm. Let's figure out some solutions where you can still, get through the curriculum with her, right? And do your job, but also make it in a way where she can naturally succeed in a way that works for her. And I'll do my part at home with her, right? And just side note, I think a lot of people, I have full custody of my daughter. She has visitation with her dad, but I just happen to have that was intentional. But I happen to have full custody. And I think a lot of people don't realize all the decisions, all the interactions, all the things you have to do. It's not just about they live with you full time. It's about having these conversations with teachers. And when you're in middle school, it's several teachers. It's not just one teacher. And every teacher has their own way of operating, their own style, and their own curriculum. And your kid is trying to sort through all of this on their own. And as a parent, that's one of the things that I have to deal with. And at one point, I asked her, I've been called into the principal's office, not for anything bad that she did, but because there was discussions that needed to be had about things that were happening in ways to support her. And I said to her, is there any way, what needs to happen in order for me to end up in the principal's office less? Right? Because all I was really thinking about was, I don't have time for this. Like, I'm running businesses, I have the things to do around the house, as well as in my career, and all kinds of decisions to make, for your future activities. And here I am having these extra conversations that were not in my schedule. So I'm trying to figure out a solution that she drives. She drives a solution. And my daughter is really direct and to the point. It's just one of her strengths. And I said, so what needs to happen in order for me to not end up talking to your teachers so much and like being in the principal's office? And her answer was simple. Not go to school. You know, like that's pretty simple. And then my job, to me, my job is, okay, let's go to do the internal work too. Right? Like, yeah, changing things, sure, let's just move. Everybody else can move their life around, right? But that's not always life. So I'm just trying to kind of guide her right now at this age through, okay, there's going to be some things that happen in life that we can control and some things that we can't. And the things that we can control, what can we do? And how do we do it in a way where we're listening to our instincts? So the work that I do is both logical, numbers based. I'm a financial planner, so I can give you numbers and solutions and recommendations in black and white. But what really drives people, whether I'm doing financial planning or success coaching, what really drives people from the logical to where they are to where they need to be, it's not logical. Logic plays a part in providing information, but diving into the emotional side, spiritual side, if you will, whatever you believe in, that gap that exists, that bridge, that's what I do. I bring those two parts together so you have the intuitive and the tangible at play together to get people to move forward. And that's what I try to do with my daughter. But it's really it's so fun for me and enjoyable to just ask her questions and see what her answers will be, because kids will say the darndest things.
You're so right. And I love how, you give your daughter this choice, which way we're going to walk today, by making those little tiny decisions. Yeah, you're teaching her how to trust herself more, because oftentimes, as when we were growing up, the mantra was children should be seen and not heard. You
Yep.
should not have your own opinion. You should just abide and do however whoever says what needs to be done. You just go and do it, and you never even ask why or any way of talking back.
Yes.
You just follow the order. That's your job.
Yes.
Don't ask anything. And
It's
now,
interesting because when all this first happened, and we were connecting with my parents through FaceTime. And at one point, my mom said what she knew, which is, in my day, and she's Eastern European. So in my day, kids sat at the table and they didn't speak. And my daughter is yapping, yapping, yapping. She wants to be part of the conversation. She has questions that need to be answered. And I very gently interrupted and said, well, Mom, that's not how we're doing it here. At the same time, though, I did have to teach my daughter how to interact in a way where she wasn't constantly interrupting people. Like there's an etiquette you need to learn. But at the same time, like I said, she is a whole human being with her own thoughts, feelings, emotions, and instincts. And if she has something to add to the conversation, then I have given her permission to do so.
Yeah.
And you're a little screen on our table, but we are here together at this table, right? And once we end, right, what people don't realize too is once you end the call, the parent or whoever is left behind in person with that child now has to deal with all the negative emotions of that child, that now they feel rejected, they don't feel worthy, they didn't feel heard, all of that. So I set it up at the now we're all used to it, and my parents are, it was a bit of a transition because that was their only grandchild. It was their first grandchild, so like everybody was learning together. Yeah. And actually, I asked my dad one day because he used to be an advisor. He's now moved on in his career, but we never had this conversation around instincts and trusting yourself, right? My parents never talked about these things. So one day, a couple of years ago, my dad was visiting, and I said to him, "By the way, did you did you ever have like these intuitive moments in your life or career?" He said, "Absolutely. And every time I listened, I never went wrong." I said, "How come you never told me that? Why don't we talk about these things?" And he was very successful in his career and is still successful today. He just changed businesses and countries, and they took big risks because they trusted their instincts. Being a single parent is a huge risk and is one of the hardest things that people do. And I don't think people really realize that. And as a single parent, we are operating at like 2,000 kilometers per hour, not actually taking the moment to realize, hey, we're actually doing one of the toughest things, not just in choosing to be a single parent, but we are the emotional control center constantly for these little human beings that we have to manage our own emotions and their emotions and like set them up for life, for success, and no pressure. It is one of the hardest things that you do, but you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah. Just as you were speaking, I had that picture in my head, like, how I call it. There is a airport tower. What are they called? That
Uh,
navigate
yeah, air traffic control.
thank you, air traffic control. So you're like the air traffic control for all of the emotions, finances, physical health, emotional health, and you gotta have all planes up in the air, make sure nobody crashes, nobody falls, and everything kind of just goes into this beautiful symphony where everything works together with each other in such a cohesive way that nothing breaks.
Yeah,
So that's what I imagine as you were speaking.
that's a great metaphor, actually. Yes.
The air traffic controller.
Yeah, there's been times when, I'm in the kitchen, I'm cooking, and I'm not just cooking. I'm cooking, but at the same time, I'm thinking about all these business decisions I have to make, school conversations I have to have, what's next for my daughter. Oh yeah, when should I meditate and take care of myself? Like all this stuff is happening at the same time. And then my daughter comes in, Mommy, can I do this now? Okay, if not now, when can I do it? And can I have this? Can I snack now? I'm literally making dinner. And it's just a constant flow of questions and comments and I have had moments where I've had to say, Mommy, can I show you this? You know what? I would love to see it, but not right now. Right now, I need to focus on this and I'm finishing this. And then afterwards, but later today, I would love to see that. And even doing that, when you first do it, if you're not used to doing it, because you're a people pleaser, if you're not used to doing it the first time, feels kind of painful and I'm really uncomfortable. But then you become really proud of yourself. You're like, oh, wait, I actually spoke up. I set a boundary. I talked about what's important and I didn't, and I'm still going to, I didn't reject my kid and I'm still going to go and do the thing. And hey, practicing patience is good for them too.
Yeah,
So, and then it becomes easier. It becomes easier over time.
totally. Thank you. I love that. What advice would you share with single parents who are just stepping onto the journey of single parenting?
Trust your instincts for the next step right now. Whatever the right next step for you is, it may not make logical sense, but trust that. That little step, what if you trust your that not taking that next step is important, but the way you go about it is more important. By you trusting yourself to make a decision, no matter how small or big, is what's actually coming back to you tenfold in terms of building yourself up, building up your confidence, building your self-belief, building your connection to yourself and your instincts and your inner power, your strength, your drive. Uh, so trust yourself to take the next right step for you, whatever's right for you. But also, what I do see a lot as a financial planner is people wait too long to talk to their money person, a financial planner, a financial advisor, because they have a lot of limiting beliefs around, oh, I don't have enough, or my situation isn't really that big an issue, or I'm ashamed because then they'll know how much debt I'm in. Whatever the case may be, get that person in sooner than you think you're ready, because that person knows a lot about their field and they know exactly how to guide you and how to get you ready or even educate you for when you are ready for some things in advance. Because if you had the knowledge in anything in life, if you think about, man, if I had that knowledge earlier, here's what I would do differently. Well, you don't know what you don't know. But if you connect with somebody that does know sooner, that can help you a lot faster and easier. And then it's easier when you have the knowledge to trust your instincts about, first of all, how you need to succeed based on now what information that you have, right? Like, does this work for me? Does it not work for me? Or what parts of this work for me? You know? Um, and some people, like, everybody operates differently. Some people can make a quick decision with very little information. That's my daughter. Some people need a little bit more information, but need an incentive or a deadline. That's me. And others need a lot more time to process, but they need a lot more detail. They need structure. They need a system, right? That's a lot of my friends, right? They need information before they go ahead and kick into gear, and they need time to process that. So that's what I think I would say right off the bat. And then the third would just be leverage your community resources and their knowledge, which kind of ties into this the second one, which is get the right people around you. Asking people questions or getting free resources in your community or just in conversation with people is free. Even if you're in a well-off situation financially as a single parent, you still don't know what you don't know. So surround yourself with people that do. Know that you don't have to work with anyone that doesn't feel right. Okay, just because they know more than you. You can find people that know more than you, will guide you properly and educate you, and still feels aligned to you. Because you're building relationship. And that's the thing I think we don't talk about it enough as well, which is we may be a single, but we still have relationships.
Yeah.
Right? We have relationships with our advisor. We have a relationship with our accountant. We have a relationship with the cashier at the grocery store. These are relationships. And when you become a single parent, a lot of the trauma is connected to relationship, but it's the very things that being in relationship with different kinds of people is the very thing that will help us get through it, because we need to learn and unlearn and relearn a lot of things to get us to a really healthy place in all ways.
Totally, totally. Thank you. Thank you for that. Is there anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
Uh, I if you have any topics that you'd like to make to cover, I have a YouTube channel that I just started. It was also one of my big moments of I got to do this, and I'm really scared, but I have to do this because I feel really called to share these concepts, whether they're money concepts or related to money in any way. I talk about my separation and divorce. I give advice to your friends on how to help you through divorce, because a lot of times friends, especially when they haven't been through it, don't know how to help you. So I give some guidance there. But I feel like it's a conversation. So if there's anybody that would like to learn more from me about any of these kinds of topics, put it in the comments so that I can create something around that. And it will help not just you, but many other people. One of the most important things about speaking up is that you have to remember you're also helping others. When you have a question for yourself, the answer will also help many others who are thinking the same thing, but just haven't spoken up about it. So let's see, what else would I add? I would just say that life is good. It's not perfect, but it's really good. I think that's really important to say, because for people who don't know me personally and don't know all the details of my journey, we tend to look at people, on podcasts, on YouTube videos, on news, celebrities and whatnot, or people on stage and think, oh, their life is so good and easy now. Right? That's not true. That's not true. We've just surrounded ourselves with the right people, did a lot of the inner work, trusted our instincts, and got through it and keep getting through it. But gratitude, I think, has been one of my biggest gifts, and patience. Patience, I would say, is a big thing I would share, because nothing goes as fast as you like it to, right? Your need to improve your situation, to no matter what your situation is, you just want it to be different, you want it to be better, you want to leave that icky stuff behind, you want it to be, whatever you see on TV, right? So figuring out what success really means to you, irrespective of what's on social media. But just have the patience. You're gonna have to have patience. Has gotten me farther. Patience got me full custody. I just had to wait 4 years. That's all. It didn't have, it's not like we broke up and said, okay, now I get full custody. Ta-da, right? Um, Patience got me full custody. Patience got me a child who is a very well-rounded, well-developed little human being. And I say that not just as the parent, but as feedback that I've gotten from different teachers and principals, people who have been an influential part of her growing up. And patience has brought me more rewards in ways that were more aligned than anything else. And I know I'm going to listen to this one day and say, oh, yeah, I did say that. Okay, I got to be patient again. you know, okay, one more time. And then there's going to be some things, and this is my last thought I'll leave you with. There are going to be some things in life that were totally unplanned, but will be perfectly aligned. Now, if you have your advisor or planner that sets you up to kind of financially support that unexpected but perfect situation for you, perfect. Again, those things take time and patience. But yeah, I've had some beautiful moments, including getting my rescue dog. So I guess I'm a mom of like one and a half. He's my point 0.5, I guess, according to statistics. But again, a whole independent human being, not a human being, but a whole being, whole living being. Um, yeah, he's just a perfect example of one of those things that I didn't plan for. It was perfectly aligned. I trusted my instincts. I didn't see it coming, but when it came, um, I took my time to check in with myself to make sure that I could do this thing. Because being a single parent is scary. Then you add a whole nother living being. You're like, really? I don't know. Can I take on this responsibility? Um, so
I couldn't.
that's been my most recent journey over the last year. It's been a year now that we've had him. It's been the most beautiful, rewarding thing that I've done for our little family. When you're ready. And I say when you're ready because it wasn't expected, but I was internally ready most of the way. And then when he came into my life, I got ready the rest of the way. But yeah, it was supposed to be only a foster situation for a month. And then I call it a foster win. And then in that month, I did some exploring and talking to people and just checking with myself and having conversations with my daughter because she's part of it. And then coming to the conclusion that, yes, I could do this. Because what happened was all the things that I thought I didn't have or I wasn't ready for, or I didn't have, like, I didn't have things for him, I didn't have a vet. It just came through conversation with people, and I didn't even ask. People would just offer me the resources. And it was one of those things in life where I thought, well, it's all landing in my lap. Everything that I could possibly need, uh, whether it's, babysitters or dog sitters or a veterinarian referral or, tools or bedding or whatever, toys, food, all that kind of stuff, whatever I would need for him, because I didn't know anything about it at all. Um, it landed so easily in my lap, and his personality, behavior, interaction with us was so positive that I couldn't say no. And even that is scary for someone who feels like they've made so many mistakes in their past, right? We tend to judge ourselves by all the things we did wrong, but we need to start actually building up our toolbox of all the things that we did, period, and did right.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Was there any book that inspired your journey that you can recommend to others?
I'm a big book lover. I know you had asked me previously, like, what book are you reading? It's not just one book. I'm reading a few books because I'm a high achiever like that. No, but it's also because where my mind's at. What do I feel like I need right now? So I have a stack of books that will probably be my future book recommendations that I haven't read yet. But I would say one of the best books that I'm almost finished reading is called The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. And it's about how you take self-sabotage and turn it into self-mastery, which has been an ongoing journey, and it is for many people that I know. But especially that book because it's one of the few books that I have read where almost every sentence you feel like not a word is wasted, and every sentence is a moment of, oh, wait, I gotta sit with this one for a day. It's why I've taken so long to get through the book, and I'm a pretty fast reader, is because every time I read a page, I think, wow, hold on. I need to just take this in for a moment because that was powerful. And it's wisdom after wisdom after wisdom. And I know a lot of people say I've got a lot of soulful wisdom, but it's because I have these kinds of resources. Sometimes resources are people and, links, and sometimes resources are books, which is the words from another person who has been on their own journey. So I would say that is definitely one of my top in terms of this kind of work. When it comes to like business leadership books, I have some other recommendations, but that's a big one. It's on my bedside table. The Mountain Is You. I'm just looking at my bookcase. There's been quite a few. Oh, I would also say there's a book called, I forget the exact title, but it's about finding your true north. And I think that's really parallel to the journey of single parenthood and life in general. I forget the author now. I can get it though if you like. But it's really about finding your true purpose in a way that's aligned by really listening to yourself, your body, your instincts, what gets you all giggly and excited and powered up and charged naturally. That's really the work that I do. But that book I read years ago, and then I picked it up again recently. A lot of these books that I find are right for me are really just tangible tools to give me permission to what I already know is right for me. It's just a little extra support. You're on the right track, Annie. You're on the right track. you know.
Thank you so much. Those are beautiful and will include all the resources and episode notes. If people would like to connect and learn more about you, where would they go?
So I've got a website, annieizmirliyan.com. LinkedIn as well, you can find me. And I do highlight some of the work that I do throughout my career, different organizations that I volunteer with, and that's Annie Izmirliyan. And I have a YouTube channel where I speak a little bit more openly and vulnerably about not just my journey and my story, but those that I come across with 20 years plus of people that I've been working with, but also, the things that I come across today and my journey as a parent, as someone who's divorced, single parent, someone who's a financial planner, a mentor, success coach, multipreneur, female leader, and I just bring in some different perspectives. Oh yes, and a part-time professor. So I have really interesting access to the minds and lives of college students. And I have the honor of being able to guide them in a really relatable, real life way because they don't get that so much at that age. It's a bit above and beyond really what the curriculum is. I'm teaching financial planning and insurance in college, but I take it as my personal responsibility to also prepare them and help them out with their very real life concerns. So I talk about that as well on my YouTube channel, and that is called Annie Unleashed because it's time to speak up and speak out and do that unapologetically and imperfectly and have fun with it.
So much for coming on and sharing your wisdom. I learned a lot. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's been an honor to join you here, and you're doing such good work for single parents and many others in the community. So I honor you. Thank you.